for this evening. Pursuant to changes in our Title V Supplemental Regulations. And read the notice is hereby given pursuant to Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 111, Section 31, that the Plympton Board of Health will hold a public hearing on Tuesday, March 9th, 2021 at 5 p.m. Pursuant to Governor Baker's March 12, 2020 order suspending certain provisions of the Open Meeting Law, General Law 30A, Section 18, and the Governor's March 15, 2020 order imposing strict limitations on the number of people that may gather in one place, this hearing of the Plympton Board of Health will be conducted by a remote participation to the greatest extent possible.
Okay, it works.
Specific information on the general guidelines for remote participation by members of the public and or parties with a right and or a requirement to attend this meeting can be found on the Town of Plympton's website at town.plympton.ma.us. You may join the meeting via your computer, via audio, or both video and audio, copying, pasting the following link, which I won't bore you and read, and at least list the passcodes and so forth. So this was duly published the previous 2 Fridays in the Plympton Halifax Express legal section, this meeting. And I will put down a few ground rules to begin with. The only thing that was posted is a hearing, and I've got the town clerk's notice of public hearing, a hearing on proposed amendments to Plympton Supplemental Rules and Regulations to the State Environmental Code, Title V, 310 CMR 15.00, adopted 27 September 2001. So what that means is that is the posting, and all we can talk about tonight is that. And we will stay on subject. You can't divert from that because it's not legal. So if everybody understands that, we'll start and we'll move forward. Okay. Okay. Okay, I think these are the highlighted ones, Kathy, correct? Okay. Under the first supplemental to Regulation 310 CMR 15203, the minimum septic design for any dwelling will be 110 gallons per day over the required proposed bedroom design. And the minimum for any dwelling unit will be 440 gallons a day. In other words, you have to put in a 4-bedroom system for any dwelling, unless it has more bedrooms.
Mr. Chairman, if I could just interject here quickly, this is Alex Weissite from KP Law Town Council. Just wanted to make you aware that I am on the Zoom here and available to answer some questions if needed.
Okay, thank you very much, Alex. And I should also mention, I was thinking of this earlier, present are members Harry Weichel, Fred Cronin, and Art Moran. Also present is our health agent, Kevin Forge, who is also an engineer, and he is also the town of Carver's health agent, and then administrative assistant, Kathy Ferguson. Okay. So where were we? Okay, we that little minor housekeeping change.
Mr. Chairman, for that section you had just referenced, I had just a couple small proposed tweaks to the language there. One of them would be just to take out the word unit when we're talking about dwelling. I think under Title V, I don't know that dwelling unit is defined. I think it's just defined as dwelling. So for the first sentence, I think it would make more sense to have it read that the minimum septic design for any dwelling will be 440 gallons per, or sorry, 110 gallons per day over the required proposed bedroom design.
Okay, great.
And then regardless of the number of bedrooms in the dwelling, that the minimum design will be 440 gallons per day.
Okay, 440. All right, and we're going to go down to Supplemental Regulations 310 CMR 15.211, and under Section 1, the line property line, the present supplemental, what's that? Present property, present distance from the property line to the soil absorption system said 10. That was a typo. It should say 20. And let's see. A little further on there, we have the surface drains and drainage. We're going to take out the words septic tank and then soil absorption system, because they're redundant. They're at the top of the page. There's no need of them being in the middle. So we're going to take out those two titles. And depth of groundwater. Supplemental Regulation to 310 CMR 15.212 in the town of Plympton, notwithstanding the provisions of 310 CMR 15.212 and CMR 15.255. There shall be a minimum vertical separation distance between the high groundwater elevation and the natural grade of the surface of the land on which any component of a proposed septic system is to be placed of A, 4 feet in soils with a recorded percolation rate of not more than 2 minutes per inch, or B, 5 feet in soils with a recorded percolation rate of 2 minutes or less per inch. And
Mr. Chairman, Alex here. Just a quick question on this provision. My understanding is that, and correct me if I'm wrong, please, but that the board wanted to or intends to limit the ability to use mounded systems to only properties with new construction of greater than 5 acres. Is that correct?
Yeah, that has been in effect since September 2001.
Okay. So
what we're doing is clarifying that particular rule. It's just clarifying it, not changing it at all, but just so that there's perhaps less misunderstanding.
Yeah, understood. So with that in mind, I had a little bit of extra language here proposed for the first part, just to say that after it says 310 CMR 15.212 and 15.255, I would propose adding a comma, and then for systems serving new construction on any lot of less than 5 acres, comma, there shall be a vertical separation.
Okay, and what was that again for systems?
For systems serving new construction on any lot of less than 5 acres, comma.
Okay.
And I think that's consistent when we go down further and we're looking at section what is it? 15.255. And then subpart 1 there, it talks about mounted systems for new construction must be on a lot that has 5 acres or more. So here, I think we're just, that language just helps clarify that the board only will accept mounted systems for new construction on greater than 5 acres.
Okay. Yeah, 5 contiguous acres.
Right.
Okay. And the next one down is Supplemental Regulations to 310 CMR 15.220. You're right down to the bottom of page 4, and there's a number 4. Every plan for a septic system shall be suitable, scale 1 inch equals 40 feet, et cetera, et cetera. We're going to take out that parentheses 4, end parentheses, close parentheses. So that comes out. Again, that's just a housekeeping thing. And on the next page, page 5, top of the page, yeah, we're just moving that bottom paragraph over. Doesn't mean anything. Nothing here else on page 5. Page 6. We're going to go. Okay, was this what we, Kathy, was this what we?
15282 says the alternative system. The paragraph that I wrote in was what Mr. Corvo had offered.
Okay.
So
at the
talk to Alex as to why we're going.
Yeah, Alex, under 15.282, bottom of that, all of those paragraphs, just above the page 6.
Yes.
Town council suggested we put therefore, comma, no alternative systems will be allowed in the town of Plympton.
Yep. Yeah, I did see the concern in that email about how this would affect existing systems. So I do have some proposed language to add here that I think would address that concern. So I would propose that this now read, therefore, comma, no new alternative systems will be allowed in the town of Plympton, comma, after the effective date of these regulations, period. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, very good. We'd add that in. Now we'll go on to page 7, and there are no changes on page 7. And then we'll go on to, wait a minute. We go on to page 8, and there's nothing on 8. Where did you find that?
Page 6.
Page 6? Oh yeah, okay. It's not highlighted here on my copy.
Which version is it? It says contiguous. Yeah.
Oh, but that's a change, right?
Yeah.
That
Plus the definition.
That's an addition.
okay. On page 6, we're going to go to the number 1, parentheses, number 1, close parentheses. Mounted systems for new construction must be on a lot that has 5 contiguous, parentheses, 2 parcels sharing a common border, fully touching along at least one side in order to form an integrated whole, close parentheses, acres or more. That is a definition which will add clarification to the existing Title V regulations.
Sorry, Mr. Chairman, were we talking about, is it section 15.255?
Let me go back to page. Yes, yes.
Okay. And I'm sorry, could you just repeat the what's being added so I can type
Sure.
it in?
It's number one.
Yep.
Mounted systems for new construction.
Yes.
Must be on a lot that has 5 contiguous parentheses, 2 parcels sharing a common border, fully touching along at least one side in order to form an integrated whole, close parentheses, acres or more, period.
Okay. And are we going to maintain the part that have been proposed about that these contiguous lots shall not include wetlands or separate lots joined by easements, access roads, or other narrow strips of land?
Who's speaking?
Alternate town council.
Does he not have the email?
He does.
Okay.
What do you think, Brad?
That's going to be as amended, as just read.
Okay. And I think we may want to consider keeping some language in there about easements and or wetlands or access roads not counting or being part of the contiguous parcels. And I'm happy to work with whoever has been working on the most updated draft to include that language. But I would recommend that stay in there for clarity's sake.
Okay.
Being recorded, like, the meeting is being recorded, so if you just say the language.
Okay, yeah, if you would just repeat the language, the meeting's being recorded, so we can take it off of there.
Okay. So the language that we had proposed was that mounted systems for new construction must be on a lot that has 5 acres or more of contiguous upland, comma, not including wetlands or separate lots joined by easements, access roads, or other narrow strips of land, however owned, period.
So is that the same language that we just said we weren't including, or is that something you propose that's different?
This is different. I hadn't seen the language that was just proposed.
You just said it.
I'm sorry. Can you read the language again that with the parentheses? Because I don't have any parentheses in what I'm looking at.
Yeah, Brad, do you want to?
So what are you looking to have read to you?
Right here.
The part with the parentheses about contiguous lots.
All right. So the change that was proposed by this board is paren 1, mounted systems for new construction must be on a lot that has 5 contiguous, paren 2 parcels sharing a common border, fully touching along at least one side in order to form an integrated whole, paren, acres or more.
Okay. Yeah, that's not in the draft I have, but that makes sense. I guess it would make sense too, though, to add this other language that these contiguous lots shall not include wetlands.
So if that's my question before, was if that's the same language that was proposed by council before, that's what the board opted not to include. So if you're proposing some different language to address concerns other than what was proposed before by town council, we would entertain that. But I think we have excluded what you previously had recommended.
Okay. No, that's fine. Yeah, I wasn't aware of that.
Okay. Okay, I don't see any other changes. Harry, do you see? Did I miss anything?
No, we just have to deal with it. That's cool.
And 15303.
Page 7.
Oh, 7. Okay. Okay, good. All right, on page 7, 15303, systems failing to protect the public health and safety and the environment. Supplemental Regulations 310 CMR 15.303, cesspools in the town of Plympton are considered to be non-conforming systems and are not recognized as a functioning system. At the time of a property transfer or a system upgrade, replacement all cesspools shall be upgraded to meet the standards of Title V and Plympton's Supplemental Title V regulations. All cesspools shall be deemed a failure in a Title V inspection. A cesspool is defined as a pit with open, joined linings or holes in the bottom and or sidewalls into which raw sewage is discharged. The liquid portion of the sewage being disposed of by seeping or leaching into the surrounding soil, the solids, sludge being retained in the pit. So that is new, that if a cesspool fails, it needs to be replaced with a conventional system, or if the homeowner sells the property and it presently has a cesspool, it's considered a failure. It will not pass Title V. So they will need to put in, to sell the house, they'll need to put in a new system. Okay, gentlemen, did we miss anything?
That covered the changes I saw.
Okay, do we have any comments or? Okay, I guess we don't have any comments.
From the public, Art?
Yes, from the public, yeah.
This is Jack O'Leary, 71 Ring Road. I had a couple questions that it might turn into comments, if you would indulge me.
Okay.
And if this is if I bring up something that the board's already hashed out, feel free to cut me off and we'll move on to something else. There's a couple places where the language is confusing, and maybe I'm just not getting it. Under 15.255, number 1, the mounted system language that you and Alex had discussed there. It says that must be on a lot that has 5 contiguous, and I'll leave out the parentheses, acres or more. That makes sense. What is confusing me is the part in the parentheses that says 2 parcels sharing a common border, fully touching, etc. It almost, to my mind, reads like the 5 acres has to be 2 parcels and not one. What am I getting wrong there?
No, well, just for the record, we have had review of the Title V Supplemental Regulations on the Board of Health agenda since I believe it was mid-December in 2019. So this isn't anything new that we've been discussing or talking about. It's been a long process involving town council and so forth. So we're finally getting to the end of it, 15 or 16 months later. But that being
I
said,
suggested you cut me off, Art, if I don't want to waste your time.
no, Brad, would you care to?
Yeah, I in reading it now after your discussion, Jack, the intent of that is where 2 parcels are combined to make the 5 acres. So certainly a lot that exists currently where it does meet this already would still be allowed to do that. The concern was where lots are combined to make the 5 acres, to make sure that it's not a smaller lot with an umbilical that goes to a lot somewhere else, connecting it to form 5 acres. The intent is the contiguous acres together where we have a large 1 area parcel that's able to support that groundwater issue.
Okay. Yeah, I get that. I think we do have some creative lot divisions in town. Having been on the planning board, I guess this only says they have to touch on one side. Should you define it as touching on one side for a minimum distance? Because if you took the end of that, I like your word umbilical. Let's say that umbilical is 20 feet wide and you attached it to another lot, that would still could be read to meet that provision of the bylaw, to my mind.
Sure.
Maybe make it like a minimum at least 50 feet of touching or something like that. Something that prevents all. I mean, I design systems too. Get pressure from developers to come up with all sorts of crazy schemes when confronted with a local bylaw, and that would be something I'd be thinking about is how do I read this, and what's the plain meaning of it? And the plain meaning doesn't jump out at me. It kind of needs to my mind, some math to define it.
Okay.
Well, Jack, you could always come to the Board of Health and ask for a decision.
Well, I've made it a habit of not doing engineering or development in town, so you probably won't see me. But someone, I'm just trying to prepare for you for when someone will come up with something. It sounds like you've pretty much settled on that definition, so I'll leave that alone. Could I ask 2 more questions, or would you want to have someone else have a turn?
No, go ahead.
Okay. One question really is a comment, is that mention was made of limiting certain things to new construction. And I would suggest that the wording might be extended to be new construction or upgrades that increase the capacity of a system. That way someone couldn't try and say grandfather. Let's say someone wants to turn a house into a convenience store. They wouldn't be able to grandfather an expansion of the system saying it isn't new construction if they wanted to avoid meeting some of these requirements. I think Title V reflects that in a number of places too. If you increase the capacity, you're no longer eligible for the local upgrade approvals. You've got to meet the code fully. And perhaps I'm thinking that wording might help in this bylaw too. Is that making sense?
Yeah, I understand what you're saying, Jack. Yeah, that does. Yeah, that does make sense. It's just how we capture that.
Yeah, I think the wording in Title V is new construction or upgrades that increase capacity, and that may be the right wording to just pop it in where the word new construction shows up.
Yeah, I mean, the building code looks at a change of use as a new occupancy, new construction anyhow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I hear you. Yeah. I just, again,
Yeah.
we've had so many so the Board of Health, I mean, you guys put in a lot of time, and you really don't need to have some wise guy come into town and say, well, I bought this house and I upgraded the system and now I don't have to meet your rules when I change the use.
Yeah.
When it nearly happened with someone on Main Street years ago.
No, I think that would. So can you just recommend this section and the language you were thinking would be modified to address that?
Sure. I'll send, should I just send an email to the Board of Health with that? You want to
I'm sorry, just say it for the record so we can modify based on what you've said.
Okay. Where the word new construction occurs in section, now, I don't think I have the same one you guys are looking at, by the way, so I'm not sure. In sections 15.212 and section 15.255, add or upgrade that increases capacity. Let me correct that. Upgrade that increases design flow. That's the better wording for it.
He said 15.212, and tell me the second section again, Jack, please.
255.
255. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
My last question is definitely a question. 15.290 shared systems. I just want to. It says shared systems. I just want to confirm that applies to shared systems, but does not apply to a separate system that's on an easement on another lot. I believe that's what the meaning is, but I want to make sure that I correctly understand that.
And what section was that, Jack?
290.
15.290.
Yeah, that section refers to the building, not the lot.
Right. So, for example, if, I think Tractor Supply wouldn't have been able to, did they have a separate system? I think they could tie it into what the other remaining part of the shopping center. They would have had to have had a separate system had this bylaw been in effect at the time. Because you're right, it says building and not lot.
Right.
Yeah, I guess depending upon whether that building is owned by them or owned by the owner of the rest of the strip mall. If the strip mall and the outbuilding for Tractor Supply is under common ownership and they're a leaser of that building, that would be acceptable.
Yeah, I think, I forget how it worked. I think they ended up owning the real estate. But yeah, I guess the example, I have two examples in my mind. One I designed and one I've heard about of a shared system in a subdivision. And they are not where every home in the subdivision has a sewer pipe that connects to a common septic tank and leaching area. And Norwell allowed one and found a lot of problems with it. And the one I designed has not been built for a lot of reasons, but I suspect that community may not like it either. And by using the word building, it might cause some confusion for an applicant. They might think they could do a shared system in a subdivision. And if it's the board's intent not to allow that, maybe the word building should be building or lot.
Yeah. Well, I think I'm comfortable with the word building there. So I think we'll move on from there. If you follow their agreement.
It's something we could amend it.
Honestly, I don't have heartburn over it either way, if it's added or not added. I,
2 hours. I stay away from a lot.
yeah. All right.
Okay, fair enough. I'm done. Thank you.
Thanks, Jeff.
Thank you. Does anyone else have any comments from the general public? Okay, hearing none. Do I hear a motion
Motion
on the changes?
to accept the bylaws as amended during the meeting.
Okay,
Second.
motion from Mr. Cronin, seconded by Mr. Weichel. All in favor?
Aye.
Let the record show all
Mr.
3 board members voted aye.
Mr. Chairman, just one point of clarification. I believe we're speaking about the regulations rather than a bylaw.
Oh, excuse me, yes, the supplemental regulations. Apologies.
That's okay.
Thank you, Alex.
All right. Thank you all very much. Appreciate it.
Okay, at this time, it is 5:45 p.m. and we'll close this public hearing. And I thank everyone for joining us. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.